Hi, I'm Sonja Petek, a Policy Associate at the Public Policy Institute of California. Today I'd like to talk to you about some of the key findings from our recent public opinion survey on Californians and higher education. This is our 5th annual survey on this topic, and interviews were conducted from October 25th to November 8th. We interviewed about 2,500 California adult residents on both landline phones and cell phones, and interviews were conducted in 5 languages. The survey this year is conducted with funding from the James Irvine Foundation. Now, before I begin, I'd like to give you a little bit of information about the state's higher education system. It's comprised of 3 branches: the California Community Colleges, California State University, and the University of California. Together, these schools serve over 3.5 million students and make up the state's 3rd largest area of spending after K-12 education and health and human services. Since the onset of the economic downturn, all 3 branches have undergone significant reductions in state funding. Now, one of the key findings that emerged from our survey is that there are serious and growing concerns about state funding and student affordability and the potential effects on educational quality. 6 in 10 Californians consider affordability to be a big problem for students, and an even greater share say that the state budget situation is a big problem for the higher education system. Although Californians continue to give positive ratings to each of the 3 branches, ratings of the CSUs and UCs have declined somewhat since 2007, and perhaps this is because 2/3 of Californians say that the public colleges and universities have been affected a lot by recent state budget cuts, and that educational quality will suffer if the state makes more budget cuts. There are high levels of concern about some of the measures already being taken, including increasing student fees and tuition, reducing course offerings, and reducing admissions. Most say that state funding is not enough for higher education, and there's a growing share of residents who say that a very high priority should be placed on state spending in this area. Another finding that emerged from this survey is that most Californians think that the higher education system is headed in the wrong direction, and many lack faith in their elected officials to handle it. Californians are much more critical of the way Governor Brown is handling the higher education system than of his job performance overall, and in fact, among those we consider likely to vote, a majority disapprove of his handling of the system. Californians are even more critical of the state legislature when it comes to their handling of the system. We find that Californians are aware that the state will face a shortage of college-educated workers for the jobs of the future, but most say they have little or no confidence in the state government to plan accordingly. Although Californians prioritize spending on higher education and express concerns about the direction of the system, many are unwilling to make sacrifices to maintain current levels of spending on higher education. They are more likely to oppose than favor paying higher taxes to benefit the higher education system, although voters are deeply divided along party lines. There is widespread opposition to increasing student fees and tuition, and although Californians would consider admitting more out-of-state students who pay higher tuition, support declines if it means these students would displace in-state students. There is one area of support, which is a hypothetical bond measure for higher education construction projects. We find a majority of Californians would support that idea. Now, when we look at attitudes about college more generally, we find that most Californians believe success today depends upon having a college education, but many see the cost as a barrier to entry. Nearly 6 in 10 Californians say that a college education is necessary, and Latinos are especially likely to hold this view. However, 7 in 10 Californians say that the price of college keeps many students from going, and a greater share say that students have to borrow too much to pay for their college education. We find that most Californians believe that there are many qualified and motivated students who lack the opportunity to go to college, and that many who do go are unprepared for college-level work. Most Californians think it's essential for the K-12 public schools to be preparing students for college, but most say these schools are doing a not so good or poor job of it. Finally, we wanted to pay special note to California's community colleges in the survey. These schools serve over 2.9 million students and a variety of important functions. We find that more than 7 in 10 Californians say it's very important for these schools to be including career technical and vocational education. And although we find that most Californians say that a 2-year degree can be at least somewhat helpful to a person's future success, less than half say that a 2-year degree can help a person a lot to be successful. Perhaps reflecting that belief, we find that the vast majority of California parents would like their children to achieve a 4-year or postgraduate degree, but about half are very worried about affording it. Concerns are especially high among Latino parents and parents with lower household incomes. I'd like to thank you for listening today. Our full survey report can be downloaded from our website at ppic.org. Thank you.